So now we got in front of us the Ballon d'Or 2024 list, all of the players. And I have my qualms about a few things. Now, let me say this, right? I think this is the year officially where I stopped taking the Ballon d'Or so seriously. And it's not because I have a huge issue with the winner. Let me make that very clear before people say, oh, you're only saying that because Rodri won it. That's not my issue. I've said numerous times now, Rodri, he wasn't my pick, but I don't really have a huge issue with him winning it. But honestly, this is the year, I think, chat, where I look at it and I just think to myself, I think we're all getting worked up over a whole lot of nothing, right? The criteria is non-existent. There is no consistent criteria of this award. So how can I realistically get annoyed when, forget about from year to year, there's no consistent criteria. From player to player, there's no consistent criteria. Then you kind of think that it's voted by journalists. And then you think of all the players of all time who never even got top 10 Ballon d'Or nominations. Like players that weren't even nominated that I'm looking on this list. Like Salah's not on this list, man. Mohamed Salah, and I understand Salah didn't have his amazing season, but he still had a better season than some guys on here. So I'm really looking at it from now. And again, like I said, it's not because the guy I wanted to win didn't win. It's really not because of that. But I can remember back as far as Diego Milito not being nominated in 2010. And that should have been probably the alarm bells in my head. But realistically, if it wasn't for Messi and Ronaldo, I don't think this award would have that much glamour. I'm very happy for Rodri for winning it. I saw him on stage today. He looked very, very emotional. And I think he's a deserving winner of it. But genuinely, I don't think it's the end of the world. I think there's a lot of clamor that Vini hasn't won it. Real Madrid not showing up today, which in my opinion is not the best look. I think from a sporting, what's the word? Just being a good sport. I don't think not showing up because the guy you believed should have won didn't win is a good look, although there may be a bigger story there. But yeah, let me kind of go through this, right? I'm looking at number 30, Artem Dovbyk. Well, he was joint 30th with Mats Hummels. And to be honest with you, I even said when the list was kind of announced, these two for me summarized why I thought this was such a bad year for the Ballon d'Or. These guys would not make a Ballon d'Or top 30 and for me, probably any of the last 30 editions. Dovbyk was the top scorer in La Liga, but he hardly put up like record-breaking numbers that we've never seen before for Girona and had a very subpar Euros of Ukraine. And keep that in mind, by the way, his Euros of Ukraine. And then right joint with him was Mats Hummels. And already I'm seeing people say Hummels was the best defender in the UCL too, to be fair. I didn't think so. I thought Rudiger was. And I didn't think Hummels was that great in the Bundesliga either. Let me see how many players were nominated from Borussia Dortmund's Champions League finalist team. Is it only Mats Hummels? So are we saying Mats Hummels was Dortmund's best player throughout that entire Champions League run? Regardless, 29th. I mean, it's okay, but I think there were a few players that had better campaigns than Hummels, to be honest with you, personally. Next up is Grimaldo. I think Grimaldo is criminally low on here, but I understand why. One thing you're going to see, for the most part on this list, I say that as a caveat, remember that. For the most part, you're going to notice on this list that Euro 2024 held a lot of weight in the final decision-making for the journalists when deciding the Ballon d'Or. Just remember that. And the fact is, Grimaldo was absolutely incredible for Bayer Leverkusen. Some people have even told me, who are really fanatics about the Bundesliga, that arguably he was the best player in the league last season. He was undoubtedly the best signing, maybe in all of Europe, coming in a free transfer. But the fact is, he didn't play at the Euros. He was a substitute. And yes, Spain won, but he had little to no impact. And I think that's massively hindered his space, along with the fact that he's a fullback, which, let's be real, is always kind of a thing. But I have to be honest with you, chat. I think he's been massively hard done by here. 28th. Right ahead of him is Vitinha. Now, Vitinha was pretty good for PSG. Was one of their better players as they won the league. Was okay at the... He had a good Euros. Nothing special for me. 27th, I don't think he had a better season than Grimaldo, personally. Next up, we got Declan Rice. Declan Rice comes 26th. Had a good debut campaign for Arsenal. Was one of England's more consistent players, although I didn't think he had an incredible Euro campaign. Should he have been over Grimaldo, who again was invincible? Put up insane numbers at fullback. I think the fact that Rice played in midfield for the team that went to the Euro final and Grimaldo barely featured has helped Rice massively. And I think it's hindered Grimaldo massively as well too. 25, Cole Palmer. Now, Cole Palmer is this low because of his team's lack of success. Let's be real, right? Cole Palmer is on this list because he as an individual had an unbelievable year. England Player of the Year, PFA Young Player of the Year, most goal contributions in all of the Premier League last season. But the fact is, he never started a game for England during the Euros. He wasn't playing in Europe whatsoever last season. That's hurt him here. But this is where, for me, the criteria is a bit confusing. Is it based on numbers? Is it based on international appearances? Is it based on silverware? What's the criteria here for Cole Palmer to be 25? I'm going to guess he's been hurt here by the lack of success. But from a purely individual point of view, Cole Palmer had a sensational season. Just ahead of him is William Saliba. I think this is a fair ranking. I think Saliba was exceptional for Arsenal in the Premier League. and I thought he was very, very good for France at the Euros. I actually like this ranking for him, and I would have put him over Ruben Diaz, personally. Now, I understand Ruben Diaz won the league, but I didn't even think Ruben Diaz was Manchester City's best defender. I think Akanji had a more impressive 2023-24 season than him, both for Manchester City and for Portugal, for Switzerland at the Euros. I think Ruben Diaz is being carried a little bit by his name here. Ruben Diaz is a bigger name than Akanji. He's a more established name in the game than William Saliba. I wouldn't have had Ruben Diaz at 23, personally. Right above them is Antonio Rudiger, and again, Rudiger should be clear of both of these guys. He should be clear, like he should not be one position above Ruben Diaz and 2 positions over Saliba. I think that's absolutely wrong. Rudiger, for me, was the best center back in Europe last season, based on performances, based on silverware, based on big game performances. Did pretty well at the Euros. Nothing sensational, but still had a solid Euros. But I think Rudiger is massively underrated here. I don't think he should be 1 between Ruben Diaz, and I don't think he should be 2 between Saliba. Ahead of Rudiger is Saka. Again, I'm not sure why Saka is above Rudiger. Now, Saka, again, had a good individual season, very good individual season, but the lack of silverware, and it's not like his statistics are something we never saw before. Like, he had good statistics, but he didn't have better statistics than even Cole Palmer, per se. Arsenal had a bit more success in terms of their placement in the league, challenging City. But I wouldn't have Bukayo Saka over Rudiger. I wouldn't. Nor would I have Hakan Çalhanoğlu, even though Hakan Çalhanoğlu had a very, very good campaign for Manchester City, for Inter Milan, excuse me. Very, very good campaign for them. Pretty good at the Euros for Turkey, but I wouldn't have him over Rudiger. I think Rudiger is pretty low on this list, man. Way too low. I would have Rudiger over Odegaard. I don't even know, would I have Odegaard over Saka? Odegaard didn't play at the Euros. And I'm seeing a lot of players on this list hurt by their Euro performances. Massively hurt by their Euro performances. And yet Odegaard, who didn't play at the Euros, is 19th place. Not for me. Emi Martinez at 18. I hear it. Very, very good campaign. As a goalkeeper, you're always going to be capped on how high you can finish. But the fact is, Emi Martinez was probably the outstanding goalkeeper of the last season, although I think Lunin was really, really good as well too. But he won the Copa America with huge performances in that competition. For Aston Villa as well too, helping them finish in the Champions League spots. I think Emi Martinez is good for that position, man. 17, Fede Valverde. I feel for Fede, I can't lie. I think this is a little low. I think Fede was so important for Real Madrid. Actually, but you know what? I'm looking at there's some names that shouldn't be ahead of him. But I'm not too upset about Fede's position. For me, he would have been between 10 to 15. 17, it's a little lower than I would have put him, but it's not the most ridiculous thing here. 16, Granit Xhaka. Now, Granit Xhaka was unbelievable for Bayer Leverkusen. Again, one of the signings of the season. Revolutionary for them as they went invincible in the Bundesliga. Had a very, very good Euro 2024, in my opinion, for Switzerland. So I don't mind Granit Xhaka at 16. Nico Williams at 15. Now, for me, this is, again, where you're starting to see how much the Euro had in stock at this tournament. Now, Nico Williams had a good campaign for Athletic Bilbao. I think they even won the cup. But let's be real, he's 15th place on here because of his Euro 2024 performances, almost exclusively for that. He is solely on here due to his Euro 2024, and he was brilliant at Euro 2024. But that's 1 month of the season. And this is why I'm saying, for me, it's very obvious that international football was a huge player when it came to judging the Ballon d'Or. At 14 is Ademola Lookman. Now, Nigeria went to the AFCON final. Lookman had that massive performance in the Europa League final against Leverkusen, winning Atalanta the cup. For me, Lookman should not be 14th. Lookman was not the 14th best player in the world this past season. He would have, in my opinion, finished 20 to 30. 14th is ridiculous. And even more ridiculous for me is Dani Olmo. Dani Olmo, if you want to know how much the Euro had to do with this year's vote, Dani Olmo sums it up. Dani Olmo missed so much time for RB Leipzig this season. So much time through injury. But at the Euros, finishing as joint top scorer, where, by the way, he didn't start most of the games, that has catapulted him to 13th place at the Ballon d'Or. And this is what I'm saying, chat. The Euros had a massive, massive say in this, man. It did. Dani Olmo wouldn't be on this list without the Euros. Let me tell you that right now for free. He wouldn't have been nominated. If the Ballon d'Or was decided off the club season, he would not have been in the top 30. The month-long Euro has catapulted him up to 13th. One behind Florian Wirtz, who was the Bundesliga player of the season. So over an entire campaign, from August to June, I would say, Wirtz was deemed the best player in Germany, the same league that Olmo played in and barely made an impact in. But because of 1 month, Olmo is 1 place behind Florian Wirtz. That for you and for me, again, if you don't believe how much the Euro had to play here, that should sum it up. 11, Phil Foden. Now let's take all the trolls out of it. Let's take all the memes out of it. Let's take all the bias out of it. Phil Foden was either the best player in the Premier League or a top 2 player in the Premier League this past season. For Manchester City, it was his coming of age campaign. He was absolutely brilliant for them. Had so many big moments, big goals, game winners, match winning moments that helped City win the league in a year where Haaland missed a lot of the season. De Bruyne missed half of the season. If the season had ended in May, Phil Foden would have been top 8, I would say, for Ballon d'Or. He would have been in those conversations. The Euro has fucked him because, quite frankly, he was one of the worst big name players at the Euros. He had a very disappointing campaign. But 11th, and behind some of these names, I have to say, chat, I feel for him here. Yes, he had a bad Euros, a very disappointing Euros. But to miss the top 10 because of 1 month, where again, I'm going to speak about certain guys who, we'll get there. Harry Kane, the top scorer in all of Europe, the European Golden Boot winner. No trophies, which obviously massively hinders him. And I think in the Euros, despite being the joint top scorer, didn't have a good Euros for me. But he's finished 10th. Let's move on. We'll get back to Kane because I have something to say here. Toni Kroos finishes at 9th. And this, for me, chat, tells me if Toni Kroos in Germany had won the Euros, Toni Kroos probably would have won the Ballon. He probably would have won the Ballon d'Or. Because all of the logic behind Rodri winning the Ballon d'Or, you could actually pretty much equate it to what Toni Kroos did for Real Madrid. In terms of their impact from midfield, in terms of how badly the team needs him. If you don't believe me, look at Real Madrid without him this season. They have no control over games whatsoever anymore. In terms of like the criteria in which kind of Rodri was deemed the best player this season, Kroos was the equivalent for Real Madrid. And if he had won the Euro, they would have given Kroos the Ballon d'Or. I'm convinced of it. And I'm even more convinced of it because it was his last year. They would have given it as a last dance. I promise you that, chat. Toni Kroos would have won the Ballon d'Or if Germany had won the Euros. I remember when he announced the decision early, I was actually saying, they might give it to him for the storyline. Now, I've never been more convinced. Lamine Yamal at 8th. Now, you guys know me. I absolutely love Lamine Yamal. And if you were to ask me right now, if the season ended today, who would win the Ballon d'Or for next season? My vote would go for Lamine Yamal. I think he's been the best player in the world this season. But let's be real. Lamine is also 8th because of the Euro. Yes, he had big moments in La Liga, but they're big moments respective to a 16-year-old. If we're being objective here, if you compare him to all ages, it wasn't like an 8th place season for Barcelona. It was crazy because he's 16 years old. But 8th place is purely because of how brilliant he was at the Euros, and he was exceptional. But this is again showing that Ballon d'Or have prioritized 1 month over 12. They have. Lamine's 12 months at Barcelona were not better than Harry Kane's 12 months at Bayern Munich. Let's be real here. But the 1 month at the Euros has catapulted Lamine Yamal over him. Lamine Yamal's 12 months at Barcelona were not more impressive than Florian Wirtz's 12 months at Bayer Leverkusen. But the Euro has catapulted him over him. You guys kind of see where I'm coming from now. You guys are kind of seeing my thought process. Stay with me because it's all making sense until it doesn't. Lautaro Martinez at 7th. This is where all logic goes out the window. All logic goes out the window now. This is where, for me, I didn't agree with the Ballon d'Or, but I understood the thought process. Now, I've lost it. It doesn't make sense to me anymore. Any criteria that you can throw at me for this year's Ballon d'Or, Lautaro checks it off. Output, production. Lautaro was the top scorer in Serie A and the top scorer at the Copa America, in which both his teams won. Silverware. Lautaro Martinez won the Serie A, won the Coppa Italia, and won the Copa America. Big moments. Lautaro Martinez scored the winning goal in Copa America final and scored the winning goal in Coppa Italia final. Awards. Lautaro was named Serie A MVP, Golden Boot in Serie A, and Golden Boot for Copa America. So he has the silverware, he has the production, he has the big moments, and yet he's finished 7th. It's like I said, for me, I feel for Vinny. I understand why he's upset, but I don't think you can be that upset about this award because there's no consistency, there's no criteria, man. It doesn't make sense to me how Lautaro was 7th. And then when I look at who's above him, in Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland, it has blown my mind. Now, let me make this very clear. Do I believe Lautaro Martinez is a better player than Erling Haaland or Kylian Mbappe? No, I do not. But what is this award being judged on? What's it being judged on? What's the criteria for it? Is it trophies? Because he has more trophies than Mbappe and he has more trophies than Erling Haaland. Is it goals? I don't know where he ranks exactly in terms of goals, but I can tell you what, he's probably close to Haaland in terms of goals, and he's probably further away from Mbappe, but he's got the silverware to back it as well too. Whereas Mbappe put together one of the worst Euros I've ever seen from a superstar player. Ever. So throughout this list, we've heard about Euros, international football. Tell me why, chat, Kylian Mbappe, who dropped a stinker after stinker disaster class at the Euros, and Erling Haaland, who didn't even qualify for the damn tournament, are above Lautaro Martinez. How is Erling Haaland over Phil Foden. Not a single Manchester City fan will sit here and tell you that Haaland was better than Foden last season. He wasn't. He missed big parts through injury. And it's not even like Haaland had incredible Euros. He didn't even qualify for the damn competition. So chat, I don't understand this. This is why for me, the Ballon d'Or, there's no point in losing energy and getting angry over it. I don't want to call it a sham because I'd love to be invited to one of these. I'd love to attend the Ballon d'Or. But there's no consistency in the criteria whatsoever. There's none. Serie A as a league ain't rated. Let's be real. Is Ligue 1 rated for Mbappe? Is Ligue 1 now hold more weight than Serie A? Let's be real. The reason Mbappe and Haaland have finished over Lautaro Martinez is name status. It's not about the league. It's about the fact that they're bigger names than him. He scored a World Cup final hat trick. That happened 2 years ago. I'd hear it if it was 2022 or 2023 even. It's done. That's in the past, bro. For me, Lautaro has been done dirty here. At minimum, he should have been 5th. For me, minimum 4th, in my opinion. I get the Dani Carvajal at 4th. And this is, again, where they change the criteria all over again. If it's based on name and GA, why is Carvajal over Haaland and Mbappe? Why? What did he do over them? He won silverware. He was successful. So why is Lautaro Martinez not over them? There's no criteria here. There's no consistent criteria, man. There's no point in getting angry. Jude Bellingham 3rd, Vinny 2nd, Rodri 1st. That was the expected top 3. Like I said, Vinny would have been my winner, but I personally believe all 3 of these had a good chance of winning, and I'm not upset about any 3 of them winning. I think Jude, for the first half of the season, was absolutely incredible. And I think just because it's the first half of the season, it doesn't mean it doesn't count. What you do in the first half of the season still contributes to what your team does in the league. If you have a bad first half of the season, your team's not winning La Liga. So Jude had an incredible season, especially for his first year in Real Madrid, which we're seeing from a certain somebody is not easy to do, what he did. Vinny, obviously the big game Champions League moments. It speaks for itself. And then Rodri, personally, I thought he was City's best player last season. I think he was the most consistent of the 3 from start to finish of the season. I think his importance for City was absolutely ridiculous. I think he really did a big job in midfield where Gundogan was no longer there. De Bruyne missed big time. Like, he was kind of holding that midfield on his own. I think all 3 were worthy winners, personally. But the rest of the list, I can't get on board with it, man. I think it's very inconsistent. I think it's very vague in terms of what goes into actually voting for this award. And for that reason, like I said, again, people are going to say, Lyes, you're only saying this because your favorite didn't win. I got nothing against Rodri, and I'm happy that he won this award. He wouldn't have been my vote, but I'm happy to see him win it. I think he's a deserving winner. But I find it very difficult to really get invested in the Ballon d'Or anymore when this is when this is the list that we're kind of getting. This is a sham of a list. But anyways, this for me concludes the worst year of Ballon d'Or nominees I've ever seen. And you can throw nostalgia at me. I don't give a damn, genuinely. Some of these names, and it's not even like me saying, oh, football fell off, but just think about what I'm saying here. Some of the best players in the world had off seasons this year. Salah's not on this list. Rodrigo's not on this list. Kevin De Bruyne is not on this list. It's because they had off seasons or they had injuries or I don't know. Lewandowski's not on this list. He's probably going to be in the top 5 next year. It was a poor year for me for the best players in the world. It was a poor year. It was a poor Euros for me for the best players in the world. A lot of them didn't really show up. Messi's obviously doing his thing. Yeah, Musiala's not on here. Pedri's not on here. Most of the best players in the world, in my opinion, are not on this list. So for me, you can call me an old head all you want. It's not even about that for me. I think no Van Dijk. I think it was a bad year for Ballon d'Or because the guys that normally would contest for this award heavy are nowhere to be seen due to injuries, loss of form for a season, maybe voter fatigue. Because, yeah, Salah didn't have his best year. Did he have a worse year than Mats Hummels, per se? Gyökeres as well, too. Yeah, Gyökeres had a crazy year for Sporting. Who would have been my top 15? It's very difficult to say. But Lookman would not be here. Dani Olmo would not be here. Nico Williams would not be here. Rudiger would be in my top 15. I think Fede would be in my top 15. And I think Saliba would be in my top 15. The ranking can be disputed. I would have had Vinny, Rodri, Jude, Lautaro, Kroos. The rest, then it becomes a little difficult. Then it's really down to preference. But I'd really have to think about it. But I see a lot of things on this list that personally, I'm not too keen on. Let me ask you guys this, chat. Because Cam asked this, and I think it's an interesting question. And I think, personally, it speaks to why, for me, the Ballon d'Or, it gets overgassed. Is Rodri now Manchester City's greatest ever player? Do we have any Man City fans in the chat who'd like to answer that? Because for me personally, the answer is no. No, never. No top 5, no. For me, the 2 greatest figures in Manchester City's history are Aguero and KDB. I don't think Rodri surpasses either of them. And then as for third, I think you can make an argument between Rodri, David Silva, Erling Haaland, Vincent Kompany. This is why, for me, the Ballon d'Or, it shouldn't be like the way people are overreacting today. I think it's overdoing it, chat, personally. Why do I say that? Again, big respect to Rodri, but City fans are literally saying here he's not their greatest player. He might be top 3, But he doesn't become greater than Kevin De Bruyne or better than Kevin De Bruyne because Rodri has a Ballon d'Or now and because Kevin De Bruyne doesn't. It's the same thing when Modric won it and people said, oh, does this take Modric over Xavi and Iniesta? For me, no, it doesn't, even though he has a Ballon d'Or and they don't. A Ballon d'Or is based on a season. And during that season, the people that you're competing against are completely different to when KDB was up for the Ballon d'Or and who he had to go up against. Ask yourself this. KDB, I think, came second or third the year Benzema won the Ballon d'Or. Benzema put together one of the greatest individual seasons I've ever seen in my life. Does anybody truthfully believe Rodri would have won the Ballon d'Or in 2022 over Karim Benzema? It's impossible. It's impossible. And it's not Rodri's fault. It's just how good Benzema was. But that doesn't make Rodri now better than De Bruyne because De Bruyne also couldn't get over Benzema. Now ask yourself, De Bruyne in this season, would he have won the Ballon d'Or with that season? Maybe he would have. So my whole point in saying this is the Ballon d'Or is not what determines who the greatest players of all time are. Now, it's something on your resume that you can kind of flex when you're having arguments, barbershop conversations, if you will. Oh yeah, this guy won a Ballon d'Or. But do you know how many great players of all time have never won a Ballon d'Or? Henry, Suarez, Neymar, every South American before 1995, for God's sake. They weren't even eligible for it. Erling Haaland, Zlatan, Lewandowski, like there's so Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets. There's so many like all-time great players that never got the chance to win it, whether due to circumstance or the country that they're from, the competition that they had at the same time. That doesn't mean that the guys who won it, i.e. Michael Owen, i.e. Pavel Nedved, i.e. Shevchenko, i.e. Matthias Sammer, i.e. I'm just giving you guys names. That doesn't mean that those guys are necessarily better than everybody who didn't, just because they have a Ballon d'Or. A Ballon d'Or is a nice award to have, and for me, it should be something that if every player wins it, it's a very proud moment in their career. But it is not the be-all and end-all of a footballer's career. It isn't. I'm very happy for Rodri today. But the way people are acting like Vinny, like it's the end of the world, it's an award voted by journalists. It's a big thing. Like I was gassed whenever Messi won an award. And Messi and Ronaldo, especially Ronaldo, he clearly took that trophy seriously. But does anybody who think Ronaldo's the GOAT, did anybody change their mind when Messi started winning more Ballon d'Ors than him? I don't think they did. The Ballon d'Ors aren't what convinces Ronaldo fans that Ronaldo is the greatest in their eyes. And for me, Messi is not the greatest of all time because he won all those Ballon d'Ors. He's the greatest of all time because when I watch him play on a football pitch, he does things that I've never seen anybody else do in my life. He's the greatest of all time for the numbers that he put on the pitch, the trophies that he won, the things he's able to do. It's not because he has 8 Ballon d'Ors, chat. Let me tell you that right now for free. In fact, I told you guys this earlier. For the longest time, the Ballon d'Or wasn't even considered the most prestigious award in football. It was the FIFA World Player of the Year. The Ballon d'Or was an award voted by France Football, a magazine in France, and by journalists, whereas the FIFA World Player of the Year, that was deemed the most prestigious footballing trophy until 2010, where they mixed the two of them together. Maybe they like the trophy better for Ballon d'Or. Does this Ballon d'Or give Rodri a look in the all-time Premier League midfield? I would say no, but he got something nobody else got, plus the titles. Let me ask you this, Oliver. Cristiano Ronaldo has 3 Premier League titles and a Ballon d'Or. A lot of people say he's not even the greatest Premier League winger. People are putting Salah over him, even though Ronaldo has more trophies and a Ballon d'Or. But you would probably have Salah over him. So no, Rodri would not get into my Premier League all-time 11. He's a candidate. I think he's one of the best that the league has seen. But would he get into my 11 just because he has a Ballon d'Or? No, similar. I guess Michael Owen doesn't have the trophy either. Doesn't have the Premier League, but, well, he has one. But like I said, I just don't think it's the be-all, end-all. I don't. Is Rodri better than Busquets? In my opinion, no. When then does he need to win a second one? Are you talking about to be better than Busquets? For Rodri to be better than Busquets, I have to think he plays the game better than Busquets. That's the way I view it with these players. I never have in my life have thought Rodri plays the game at a higher level than Busquets. Personally, that's my opinion. You are free to disagree with it, but in my opinion, until I see Rodri play at a higher level than Busquets, it's very difficult for me to say Rodri is better than Busquets. And I view that throughout the board. Can you please explain to me how he wins the Ballon d'Or when he didn't even win Premier League Player of the Year? It's the same way if Vinny had won the Ballon d'Or, did Vinny win La Liga Player of the Year? Whatever you say about Rodri, you can say about Carvajal. I think Carvajal, for me, it's ridiculous that he's on here as 4th. Like, trying to force Rodri and Carvajal in the same kind of bracket for me. Rodri's influence on every single football team he plays on is light years ahead of Carvajal's. It comes with a position, yes, but he's a better footballer than Carvajal, man. Like, that has to come into play as well, too, when we're talking about Ballon d'Or. I'm all for achievements and all that stuff. But come on, bro. This is like saying, like, you're just looking now at the most successful teams. Carvajal plays for both of them. He's a great player, but he's a side character on those teams, man. Let's be real. Doesn't today's Ballon d'Or demotivate good players that play for bad countries? But the Ballon d'Or has always valued good, bro, come on. This is not anything new here. Let's be real. It's always been difficult for a player from a smaller country to win the Ballon d'Or. Yes, do you think it's bad that Mbappe is turning 26 and still hasn't won a Ballon d'Or? I think it's bad that Mbappe is turning 26 and doesn't even, like, you don't even think in the next few years he's going to win it. I think the trajectory that Mbappe is going on, he should be, for me, Mbappe, quality-wise, and now, scenario-wise, with where he's playing at Real Madrid, he should be competing for every single Ballon d'Or, man. He should be. But the way he started the season and the way he's kind of, for me, stagnated a little bit in the last few seasons, I would have Yamal as the winner if the season ended today. Also, Ballon d'Or is so year-to-year dependent. There are other years where Rodri this season doesn't sniff top 20, just how it is about... Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, for me, Rodri, Vinny, and Jude, all three of them aren't exceptional candidates. Like, they didn't have years that I've never seen before. It's not like a Messi who puts up 60 goals or Haaland who has 50 goals and wins the treble. Like, these guys all had great years, but none of them are like unquestionable ironclad years. That's why for me, the outrage over Vinny not winning it, yes, I'm disappointed he didn't win it, but Vinny didn't put together a season like Cristiano Ronaldo or something where like no one else but him could have won. Like, they all had great years, but not all, like none of these three's years will go down in history, in my opinion. They aren't historic years. Like Benzema, the year he won the Ballon d'Or, that for me is a historic season. It's an incredible individual season. Messi and Ronaldo, every season speaks for itself, right? Lewandowski, the year he should have won the Ballon d'Or, that's a historic season. These three, man, they had great seasons. But give it 20, 30 years, no one will really remember the specifics of each of their seasons, bro. It won't happen. I get what you mean about no one should overreact because the criteria for the Ballon d'Or doesn't make sense, but the players seem to not feel that way. Yeah, 1,000%. And I would expect the players not to because this is their livelihood. This is something that they dream of winning. I'm saying us as fans, I don't think we should really be too upset about it. But as a player, I 1,000% get the disappointment. Vinny, I am completely understanding of how he's feeling right. Or I get why he's upset. He's probably dreamed of this moment as a child. He probably thought he did everything this season to win this. I understand why he's upset, but us as fans, right? Like, why are we getting upset over something that has little to no logic applied to it? What about Haaland's last season? Yeah, Haaland's last season was, you're talking about last season or the year he won the treble? The year he won the treble, bro, he would have steamrolled this entire year. Haaland, the year he lost to Messi, if he had this year, bro, he would have won the Ballon d'Or maximum votes. Not one single vote would have been given to anybody else. It would have been Haaland 1, and then everybody else tied for second. They would have all been on 0 votes. That's a historic season. Debut for Manchester City, 50 goals all competitions, treble winner. Come on, that's a Ballon d'Or winning year. That for me, the fact that there was not as much outrage for Haaland winning it last year, or Haaland not winning it last year, as there is for Vinny this year, is crazy to me, man. Haaland had a better season last year than Vinny did this year. It's just because every year it's usually a player more like Vinny that would win it rather than a player more like Rodri, but this year it switches up. I hear Vinny's frustration. Look, Vinny for me, this year was a very valid winner, and I love Vinny. And for me, I prefer players like Vinny than I prefer players like Rodri. That's my preference. I would always choose to watch a Vinny over a Rodri. Those guys entertain me. I completely hear that. But also, Modric won the Ballon d'Or in 2018 over more extravagant, more goal scoring, more... He won it in 2018. Was there that much criticism when Modric won it over Cristiano Ronaldo? Or was it because Madrid? This is where, for me, again, like, I don't know, man. Don't you feel it's a robbery in the sense that media outlets were hyping Vinny so much to the point where he thought he got it as proof of his words after Dortmund accompanied by the beef? I don't think that makes it a robbery. This is why I feel for Vinny. Because he was probably led to believe he was going to win it. And that's unfair. But a robbery? I don't know. I don't think it's the only way it's a robbery is if UEFA fixed the votes. That's the only way. But journalists voted, man. Like, that is what it is.